Now, Jade Falcon is truly my favorite clan, and a good set of vintage books are these three. The series is The Legend of the Chain Phoenix. It's a story of a mech warrior, Aiden Pryde, and how he rose from growing up in the Sibco to gaining his blood name and then eventually leading the Falcon Guard on Tukayyid to the tie that Jade Falcon achieved there. If you really want to understand the clans in the 3050 era, or even just before that, this really goes over it in great detail. You will at least understand Jade Falcon, which is like the kind of the prototypical clan. If you have any preconceived notions as to what clanners are, it's really all just Jade Falcon. But if you don't want to spend the time to read these books, I'll kind of go over them right here, so it'll save you a lot of time. So the first one starts off with basically almost his birth, but Aiden Pryde and Marthe Pryde and their Sibco. This turns out that Marthe Pryde ends up being the Khan of the clan later on after Aiden dies. But it doesn't matter. For now, they're both just little kids growing up in the Sibco, being taught by a falconer. The falconers are the trainer, the mech warrior trainer that's just brutalizing these small kids as they grow. And many of them just get killed off. Sometimes they fight mock battles against each other or even live fire exercises, often using freeborn mech warrior trainees as target practice. The freeborn think that they're on training missions too, except they're just being used as live fire targets by the trueborn. The trueborn is basically the ones that got genetically engineered in vats, and the freeborn are the ones that basically were born through normal mating processes. Although both trueborn and freeborn can be mech warriors if they pass their training rituals, only the trueborn are really allowed to go to the front lines. The freeborn are kind of kept in the back, sort of doing garrison duty. And there's definitely, even though both are at the top of the social structure, the trueborn look down on the freeborn, and the ultimate, and have the right to arbitrarily kill them or make fun of them and do whatever they want to, and the freeborn can't do anything back. And the trueborn will often refer to the freeborn as freebirths and freeborn scum and things like that. And basically there's no recourse. The freeborn are forced to just take it. Yet they still are mech warriors, even though they were pretty much used as target practice during the training process, and the freeborn survival rate is very low. Even the trueborn survival rate is low. So anyway, that's the first volume goes through and shows how Aiden and Marthe pass their training. Marthe shoots Aiden's mech in the back and blows it up, and Aiden has to go through hoops to regain his ability to become a mech warrior as a result. Now the second volume continues on, but many years or several years later, after Marthe, that is Aiden's sister, sabotages Aiden's first run through to become a mech warrior. And of course she gains a higher rank as a result. She gets rewarded for that action. So she's like a star commander and a star colonel, and she's up on her way, going up and up and up through the ranks. And whereas Aiden is stuck in these back worlds because he had to kind of cheat the system and pretend he was a free birth with a new name to go through and redo the mech warrior training regiment, except this time as a free birth, getting shot at by trueborn as a target practice and whatnot, but surviving. Anyway, he then just jumps out and says, hey, I am actually a trueborn, and I have a right to compete for a blood name. And so he does. And the competition for a blood name is basically you have to be sponsored and then you have to win like this massive free-for-all. Then once you do that, then there's this whittling down process, and the blood name has to be available. So typical clan mech warrior does not have a last name. So if you hear someone saying Aiden Pryde or Marthe Pryde, they won the Pryde blood name. You can only win a blood name if you're of the genetic legacy that's relevant to those names. So there are 2 names possible for Aiden or Marthe, and they won the Pryde blood name, each of them. And that's very rare. Like a Sibco typically might have 0 survivors that make it actually all the way to become mech warrior. But from Aiden and Marthe's Sibco, both of them, not only did they become mech warriors, they both became blood named mech warriors. That's like almost unheard of. Almost all mech warriors in the Sibco are washouts, and only a few will make it through. Some of them will become technicians because they failed the final test. And basically how many mechs you shoot down determines your rank when you go on. But anyway, if you win your blood name, then you're now legit and looked up to. The 3rd book starts off with the devastating ambush of the Falcon Guard and the destruction of the Falcon Guard. And it turns out that Aiden's old falconer, Joanna, was the sole survivor of the Falcon Guard in this ambush, in this canyon or whatever it was. Aiden has otherwise pretty much spent his entire career guarding backwater crap worlds because he has still, even though he's got his blood name, no one fully trusts him, so they kind of put him in the 2nd tier invasion regions where he's kind of guarding some planets and whatnot that have been captured. But he's not really given any real tasks. He finally, as a joke, because the Falcon Guard is considered a death crew unit now that it's been reconstructed and it's all a bunch of misfits and generally failed mech warriors. They're bid into the invasion of Tukayyid because it cheapens the bid, and Aiden's been put in charge of the Falcon Guard. They're considered like the last. They're considered like the worst unit, so they don't count, and they're not allowed to cross the bridge and whatnot. So he's actually forced to cross a river. The bridge is, of course, blown up by the comm guard because it's a trap. So in any case, Aiden's tactical mastery and his trusted sidekick, whose name is Horse, who doesn't have a last name because he's a freeborn mech warrior. Here's Aiden jumping. He's no longer in his typical mech, which is a summoner, and he's been forced to go into this kind of cursed timber wolf that's killed all its pilots, and he has always piloted a summoner, but they ran out of summoners for this invasion, and because it's a Des Crew unit. And then suddenly the comm guards jump out. There's this horrible melee, lots of battle. Most of the other Jade Falcon units are obliterated or demolished or smashed. Aiden heroically leads the Falcon Guard to taking their objective, except that it looks like the objective is abandoned, so they leave it. And in the end, he dies heroically protecting the rest of the units as they are loading into the dropship to escape. And that battle is considered a tie. Many people considered or thought that had he just been piloting a summoner instead of this Timberwolf, then he would have survived the battle. But in any case, because he died heroically in the battle, his genetic legacy gets to spawn the next vat of mech warriors. That's basically why Jade Falcon never ejects, because the goal is to be blood named and to die heroically in battle. And the more heroic your death, the more likely you are to become the seed for the next vat spawn.